man, the internet is undefeated, huh? I'm gonna give this friendly reminder to some of my friends out there that you can't believe everything you read, see, or hear on the internet. Especially when they're all lies. No proof, just made up lies. So I'm gonna take this opportunity to issue my one and only advisory. If you have a platform and you have content with my name attached to lies, take it down now. And to those that started the rumor, that started the lies and then continued to spread the lies, I dare you not to take it down. I dare you to repeat a lie. You're not going to defame my name. Of course the lawyers are in action. Of course the lawyers are in motion and are motivated.
Buckle up, because the secret Chris Webber just dragged out of hiding didn't just break the courtroom, it broke Doug Christie's heart in front of the entire world. For years, whispers floated through locker rooms, gossip blogs, and hush-hush basketball wives reunions. Did Chris really father Jackie Christie's child behind Doug's back? Jackie always denied it with tears and camera-perfect apologies. Doug believed every word until now in a packed courtroom that thought it had already seen its final meltdown. Chris Webber showed up like a man with a mission, no lawyers whispering in his ear, no fake script, just a battered envelope, trembling hands, and 2 decades of truth. He could no longer bury what he said next left the judge stunned, the jury speechless, and Doug gasping for breath as the walls of every lie he ever defended crumbled around him. Jackie froze. Chantal fled the room sobbing, and the internet, it exploded the moment Chris said she lied to both of us. The baby, the timeline, the affair, she buried us under secrets. She thought we'd never dig up receipts, hotel records, voicemails, a DNA test with Jackie's signature, all in that envelope, all confirming what Doug swore could never be true. Stay right here, because when you hear what Chris confessed, how Doug shattered in front of his daughter, and how Jackie's last defense collapsed in chains of her own making, you'll understand why this scandal is rewriting every basketball wife's headline overnight. Chris Webber didn't walk into that courtroom like a celebrity. He didn't walk in like the ex-boyfriend people love to gossip about either. He walked in like a man dragging 2 decades of guilt on his shoulders and a secret so heavy it snapped the last string holding Doug Christie's faith together. The day started normal for a scandal that had already shocked every tabloid, from TMZ to neighborhood gossip bandies. Jackie Christie, draped in her designer shawl and crocodile tears, sat beside her legal team, swearing she'd survived the storm just like every other by twisting truth into victimhood. Doug Christie, meanwhile, sat stone cold 3 rows behind her, staring at the back of her perfectly pinned hair, wondering how many more lies she could hide under that fake confidence. But what no one knew was that Chris Webber was about to burn the entire mask to the ground when the bafe called his name had spun so fast, a reporter later joked, half the audience needed neck braces. Jackie's eyes widened. Doug's lawyer nearly dropped a stack of evidence. Even the judge leaned forward, the creases on his forehead folding deeper as if bracing for impact. Chris stepped forward in a crisp dark suit, no entourage, no lawyer shielding him from cross-examination. In his hand, a simple manila envelope so unremarkable you'd mistake it for a forgotten bill until you saw how tightly he held it, knuckles, white veins pulsing like he was clutching a loaded gun instead of paper. State your name for the record. The clerk said, a silence so tense you could hear someone's phone vibrate 3 rows back. Christopher Webber, he said, voice calm but eyes locked straight on Jackie like crosshairs. You could almost feel the oxygen get sucked out of the room. Jackie shifted in her seat, her fingers clawing at her silk scarf like she might use it to strangle the truth before it escaped. The judge cleared his throat. Mr. Webber, you requested to address the court. Voluntarily proceed. Chris didn't waste time. He slipped the envelope open with a single flick of his thumb. His hand trembled, not from fear of Doug or the judge, but from the weight of the words that had eaten him alive for 20 years. Inside this, Chris said, lifting the envelope for everyone to see, is what I should have given Doug Christie the moment I knew Jackie was lying to both of us. I didn't, because she threatened me, blackmailed me, promised me she'd ruin my name if I ever spoke. Doug flinched like he'd been slapped. Jackie jolted up, but her lawyer grabbed her wrist, whispering fiercely, sit down. Chris looked straight at Doug. If heartbreak could punch a hole through bulletproof glass, that look would have done it. I'm sorry, man, you didn't deserve the Chantal. She's not yours, she told me she was mine, then she told you she was yours, she lied to both of us, the dates, the filming trips, the hotel receipts, everything, it was all covered up because she knew neither of us would dare ruin the family we thought we had. Doug's breath hitched so loud, even the clerk winced. He tried to speak, but only a ragged whisper came out. You told me she was mine, Jackie. Jackie's lips moved, but no sound came out. Her eyes were wide, pupils shrinking to pinpricks under the courtroom lights that suddenly felt brighter than a confession booth. Chris pulled out the first paper, a faded receipt from a Miami hotel dated the same week Jackie had sworn to Doug she was on a VH1 promotional tour. Next, a voicemail transcript where Jackie begged Chris to keep quiet, threatening to accuse him of harassment if he didn't comply. And then the final blow, a certified DNA test dated back 15 years bearing Jackie's signature hidden away in a locked safe Chris claimed he never destroyed, but buried out of fear. The judge asked for silence. He didn't get it. A reporter's pen snapped in half. Doug's lawyer scrambled to cross-reference the receipt with Jackie's travelogues. Chantel, who had been forced to sit through endless rumors, finally broke. She pressed a hand over her mouth, eyes spilling over before she bolted for the hallway, sobs echoing down the corridor like a ghost leaving a graveyard. Jackie, for the first time in her life, couldn't spin the scene. She lunged for the microphone, voice cracking. Your Honor, this is hearsay. The judge slammed the gavel so hard the bailiff jumped. Sit down. One more interruption. Mrs. Christie, and you'll be removed in restraints. Do you understand? Jackie sank back, her shoulders trembling under the crushing weight of a truth too ugly to fake this time. Chris turned back to Doug, his voice steady now that the worst was out. I didn't come here to ruin your life, Jackie did. That I came here to stop protecting her lies with my silence. You deserve to know who you've been fighting for. You've been fighting for a ghost she invented to keep you loyal. Doug didn't answer. He didn't have to. He pushed back from the table so forcefully his chair screeched across the floor, the microphone catching his whisper that felt more like a prayer torn from a dying man's chest. You killed my family, Jackie, with your mouth, with your secrets, with your fake tears. A stunned hush spread across the gallery. Reporters didn't even breathe outside the courtroom. A social media storm exploded. Clips of Chris's trembling hands, Doug's shattered face, and Jackie's ghostly stare beamed live to millions of screens. And this was just the beginning, because what Chris said next made the judge call an immediate recess and guaranteed that when they returned, the next piece of evidence would bury Jackie Christie's empire so deep not even reality TV could resurrect it. The judge's gavel hadn't even stopped echoing when the courtroom erupted like a beehive cracked open with a baseball bat. Half the reporters scrambled for the exit to get a signal and blast headlines. Chris Webber confirms Jackie's secret child, while the other half pointed phones through the glass, hoping to catch every new tremor that would break Doug Christie's life even more. But inside those walls, the air was so thick you could taste the betrayal. Jackie, frozen in her chair, stared at the DNA test that Chris Webber laid bare moments before. In that slip of paper, the entire kingdom of lies she'd built brick by brick. A loyal husband, a perfect TV family, brand deals painting her as the realest wife on reality TV turned to dust. Doug didn't sit back down. He couldn't. He paced like a man with fire in his veins and acid in his throat. Each step was a question. How many birthdays did I celebrate thinking Chantel was mine? How many nights did I defend Jackie while she laughed behind my back? The judge, struggling to regain order, barked for security to clear the hallway and threatened contempt for any reporter caught recording inside. But outside, two late Twitter feeds were exploding with raw courtroom sketches, snippets of Doug's shaking hands, Jackie's ghost white face, and Chris's final words. Before the break, I didn't ruin your family, Doug. She did. When the court returned from recess, Doug's lawyer wasted no time. He demanded an immediate forensic audit of all financial records Jackie ever controlled, from Doug's brand deals to family trusts set up in Chantel's name. Why? Because now every dollar was suspicious. For 20 years, Jackie leveraged the perfect family brand, exclusive interviews, magazine covers, and endorsements, all built on a fatherhood that never existed. Jackie's attorney tried to object. He argued the tapes were old news, the DNA irrelevant since Doug raised Chantel by choice, but the judge cut him off mid-sentence. Mrs. Christie manipulated this court, her husband, and the public for financial gain. The judge snapped, pointing a finger that might as well have been a dagger. This is no longer a simple family dispute. This is fraud. And if this court finds conspiracy, perjury, or tax evasion buried in those accounts, I assure you, Mrs. Christie, you won't be crying on reality TV. You'll be weeping behind bars. The gasp that rippled through the gallery felt like thunder. Doug's eyes never left Jackie, not when she turned to him with trembling lips, not when she mouthed, "Please, baby." Like that word still had any magic left. Doug just shook his head once, slow, cold, final. Meanwhile, Chris sat back on the stand. Posture relaxed for the first time in years. If he looked guilty, it was only for protecting Jackie's lie for too long, not for exposing it. When the prosecutor asked if he had anything else, Chris leaned forward, voice steady. But I see, a year ago, she called me in a panic. She said Doug was getting suspicious. Wanted to do a new DNA test. She begged me to lie again. When I refused, she threatened to drag my name through the press, said she'd tell everyone I harassed her. Back in the day, she knew exactly how to weaponize the world's sympathy. A murmur rippled through the seats. A journalist in the back whispered to another, "She's finished." The judge ordered the tape sealed under federal evidence rules, but the damage was done. Social media already had enough to convict Jackie in the court of public opinion. 10 times over, clips of Doug's heartbreak were stitched into TikToks with captions like, "Loyalty kills when you love the wrong one." But the worst was still waiting outside the courtroom doors. During a quiet break in testimony, a bailiff slipped Doug a note. Doug unfolded it, his lawyer peering over his shoulder, a single line of text written by Chantel, his daughter, or maybe never really his daughter. The note read, "Dad, I have something you need to hear before she spins another lie." Minutes later, Chantel walked in, no glam team, no camera-ready outfit, just a pale, broken young woman holding a tiny flash drive like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "Your Honor," she said, voice shaking but strong. "This is a voicemail my mom left for Chris. When I was a baby, I found it in an old phone she hid from me. I think it matters." Jackie lunged for her. "Chantel," and the bailiff blocked her. The judge motioned to the clerk. The flash drive was plugged in for security. It played in chambers first. Doug stared at the floor the whole time, shoulders trembling, but face flink. Then the judge returned, jaw tight. He faced the packed room and cleared his throat. "This court is now under seal. Phones off. No press." The May 19th, 2004 voicemail will be played in full. The tape hissed to life, Jackie's younger voice echoing like a ghost from a grave. She dug herself. "Chris, I can't risk you talking. If Doug finds out she's not his, it destroys everything. Also, you forced yourself on me. I swear to God, I'll ruin you. If you breathe a word, don't ruin me. Don't ruin this." A silence so thick it strangled every whisper. Doug sat down so suddenly the microphone crackled. He buried his face in his hands, breathing like every inhale scraped open old wounds. Chantel stood frozen behind him, tears streaming down her cheeks. For a heartbeat, the entire world felt the same betrayal Doug had carried alone. When Jackie opened her mouth to speak, Chantel cut her off, voice sharp as a blade. "Tell the truth, Mom, or I will." The judge leaned forward, voice calm but lethal. "Mrs. Christie, you have manipulated this court, your husband and your child, for decades, pending new charges for witness tampering, extortion, and perjury. You are remanded to custody." Bailiffs, take her into holding. Jackie collapsed back into her chair as two bailiffs locked cuffs around her wrists. Her hair fell over her eyes, but no sobbing could hide the truth anymore. The woman who ruled red carpets with crocodile tears and dramatic exits now left the courtroom the way Doug always deserved, with nothing but her lies trailing behind her. Outside, cameras snapped the moment she was loaded into the van. Doug stayed behind, motionless, staring at the bench where he once defended a love that never existed. Chris Webber asked if he had regrets, said only one thing before vanishing behind tinted SUV windows. "I regret believing a lie for so long, and I regret Doug had to learn like this." And somewhere in the chaos, the world watched a loyal man stand alone, finally free, painfully raw. And for once, they didn't pity him, they saluted him for surviving. When Jackie Christie was led out of the courtroom in cuffs, the outside world erupted like a stadium in the final seconds of a game-winning buzzer shot. Flashbulbs blinded her, boom mics hit her hair, angry fans screamed "liar," while others shoved camera phones in her face, hoping to capture a clip that would trend before sunset. But behind that courthouse door, the real shockwave hadn't even settled. Doug Christie sat motionless on the cold bench, elbows on his knees, face buried in trembling hands. To the cameras, he was a victim. To himself, he was a man replaying 20 years of fake birthdays, staged Father's Days, and carefully crafted family interviews that now felt like horror movies, with a laugh track dubbed over his pain. Next to him, Chantel, the daughter, who wasn't his by blood, but had been his entire heart by choice, sat silently, eyes red and swollen, a tissue clutched in her fist, so tight it shredded. For years, she'd worshipped her mother's perfect family script. Now she understood. She had been the final prop in Jackie's show. Chris Webber, meanwhile, didn't linger for congratulations. A moment the judge excused him, he slipped out through a side hallway under federal protection, because while fans online were busy posting #Chris did the right thing, the reality was harsher. The voicemail Chantel found wasn't just scandalous, it was potential evidence for witness tampering, extortion, and federal wire fraud. See, Jackie's hustle didn't end with manipulating two men. The forensic audit Doug's lawyer pushed for started digging through dusty old charity paperwork. Jackie once used to pitch herself as basketball's queen of giving back. Turns out that so-called charity had a side hustle, private consulting fees paid out to a shell company connected to Chris under a fake name. The hush money trail was there clear as day, and the feds wanted every penny accounted for while Jackie sat in a holding cell 2 floors below. The judge called Doug's lawyer and the state prosecutor to the bench for an urgent sidebar. The request frees Jackie's entire estate, brand deals, royalties, reality show back-end points, everything. VH1 sniffing the legal smoke from miles away didn't wait for the ink to dry. By lunch, they fired Jackie from every Basketball Wives franchise, scrubbing her face from promotional material like she'd never existed outside a crowd, had gathered some chanted Doug's name like he was a folk hero for surviving what no one else could, loving a lie so hard it almost destroyed him. Some fans wept openly for Chantel, calling her the real victim of a fake family, and a few angry diehards, the last of Jackie's loyalists, screamed it was all Doug's fault for airing dirty laundry that should have stayed hidden, but behind closed doors. Doug didn't care. He wasn't scrolling Twitter. He wasn't rehearsing for a headline-making exclusive interview. He was hunched over a conference table with his lawyer signing the final document that would rip Jackie's final lifeline out of her hands, a legal petition to remove his name from Chantel's birth certificate and cut every remaining tide that Jackie once used to control him financially. Doug's hand trembled only once when he signed the line that meant he no longer had any legal obligation to support the child he raised as his own. His lawyer touched his shoulder gently. This doesn't change. He were to her, Doug, you were her father in every way that mattered. Doug nodded, but didn't speak because what could he say? The DNA didn't erase birthday candles blown out together. It didn't erase scraped knees he bandaged, but it did erase the last legal bullet Jackie had loaded in her gun. Meanwhile, Chris Webber's team released a simple video statement on his official Instagram. No fancy editing, no PR fluff, just Chris staring into the camera, eyes heavy, but voice firm. I stayed quiet to protect a lie that was wrong. Doug didn't deserve that. Chantel didn't deserve that, and I will face whatever comes next, but I won't hide anymore. Jackie Christie used me, she used Doug, she used Chantel, and the truth is the only apology left to give. 12 million views in under 2 hours, comments split between thank you for finally telling the truth and too little too late, you were weak. Chris back in the cell block. Jackie found out the worst way possible from a guard's tablet, playing the clip on repeat while inmates cackled at her meltdown. She kicked the door screaming she was set up, but even her own lawyer had stopped answering her calls. Federal investigators were already knocking on the door of her charity accountant and tracing any leftover hush payments she'd buried offshore. And Chantel, she vanished for a few hours, slipping away from the courthouse crowd, phone off, no security detail trailing her. She showed up alone at Doug's rented apartment that night, a small overnight bag in one hand and swollen eyes that no makeup could hide. Doug opened the door, neither spoke for a full minute. Then she whispered so quietly the world couldn't clip it for likes, I don't care what the test says, you're my dad. Doug, the man who once held back tears for cameras and brand deals, broke completely for the first time, alone with no spotlight, a hugging the one truth left that no DNA could cancel: loyalty, even when the world says it's foolish. By dawn, every outlet from TMZ to ESPN carried the same headline: Jackie Christie empire collapses. Chris Webber confirms secret child. Doug Christie cuts ties forever. Memes flooded feeds. Jackie behind bars. Doug at peace. Chris with his head bowed in a silent apology. Some asked if Doug would sue for emotional fraud. His lawyer hinted yes, and not just for child support, but for decades of public brand manipulation. Some wondered if Chris would face charges for accepting hush money, his legal team bracing for damage control. And Jackie, word leaked that she tried to ink a last-minute streaming deal to tell her side of the story from jail, but prosecutors moved fast. Every episode would now be court evidence if she lied one more time. In the final press statement, Doug's lawyer spoke for him. Doug Christie doesn't want pity, he wants peace and the truth. Raw, unfiltered was his only weapon. He's done fighting now. He's just living, and for a man who lost everything except his dignity, maybe that's the only plot twist the world didn't see coming. So now you know, no more rumors, no more fake reality TV smiles. Chris confessed, Jackie collapsed, and Doug walked away with his head hiding the truth as his final revenge. But here's where you come in. Was Chris too late, or did he do the right thing by finally speaking up? Should Doug forgive him, or should both of them cut Jackie out for good and never look back? Drop your rash opinion in the comments. Don't hold back. Smash that like button if you think Doug deserves peace after decades of betrayal, and if you're ready for every shocking twist that's still to come, from federal charges to that messy tell all Doc Jackie's plotting. Then hit subscribe right now. The story isn't over, and when the next secret drops, you'll be the first to hear it here. Stay tuned.